Sunday is just right around the corner, and so today we will be taking a look at Sunday before his release, maybe give you a gauge, a better understanding of what he does and how well he does it. Sunday is kind of a Bronya alternative but for summons and also with energy regen. He has the same 100% action advance in his skill, and it is also able to dispel debuffs. His ultimate also has a crit damage boost, but instead of an attack boost like Bronya, he regenerates 20% maximum energy, but his bonus ability actually increases this to 40 if the energy regenerated is less than 40, which is quite insane. He also gives a 20% crit rate boost basically permanently, and the damage boost from his skill lasts for 2 turns instead of Bronya's single turn, which is much more useful when paired with units like Robin, Jing, and Sede who have action advance. The best part is that Sunday can regenerate a skill point when using his skill on the same teammate that has already been buffed by his ultimate, making him much more skill point friendly to play as compared to Bronya, but at the same time, Sunday is unable to 100% action advance another Harmony unit with his skill, which actually doesn't really hurt a lot. All he does is nerf the interaction between Sunday and Robin slightly, and despite that, it is still a very strong interaction. His light cone is quite interesting as well. It regenerates 6 energy for him every time he uses a skill or ultimate, and at the same time will give a 15% damage boost to the teammate receiving that skill or ultimate, stacking up to 45% total. He is also able to regenerate a skill point every 2 users of either a skill or an ultimate again, which further helps with his skill point friendliness, especially in teams like with Danheng IL. The 6 energy is more so to allow Sunday to easily get a 3-turn ultimate after the first rotation. This is because Sunday has a maximum energy of 130, which means it's very awkward for him in other scenarios as a skill will only give you 30 energy, and even with extra energy regeneration, you still need 4 turns. And so this just kinda helps you to resolve that issue if you don't have Huo or something like that. I think it is quite clear he's more so geared towards hyper carry summon units and doesn't really serve as a literal better version of Bronya. You still kind of ideally want to use them for different things, but they have some overlap for sure. We can quite easily see this in his skill. You are only able to get the extra 50% damage boost if the unit you are targeting with his skill has a summon, which means for most units that don't have a summon, it is only a 30% damage increase, which is quite sad compared to Bronya's 66% or even 96% damage increase with her light cone. Which is why even though for Jingliu, a Sunday Robin team with Robin's 100% advance would do more damage in the short run as compared to a Pela Rame Bronya team, you would notice that the individual instances of damage are still quite far off, which means if you don't have someone like Huo or Gallagher with Quid Pro Quo constantly funneling energy to Robin and making sure her ultimate downtime is as low as possible, it can be detrimental to your clear speed in a slightly longer scenario. However, being able to regenerate a massive amount of energy for a single unit and his skill point friendliness do help Sunday be very viable in teams outside of summons and isn't a one trick or completely niche unit like some of the previous units that we have been getting recently. Otherwise, in teams outside of summons, he might have just been a worse version of Bronya. Because of this and also his similarities to Bronya, he actually does fit quite nicely into pre-existing team comps like Danheng IL, Jingliu, Argenti, and especially Jingyuan teams. Because he can not only 100% advance the unit, he can also 100% advance the summon. And that is why you hear people talking about how Sunday is saving Jingyuan and whatever, because it's kinda true. One of the biggest issues with Jingyuan that has plagued him this entire time is that the Lightning Lord is incredibly slow, even though it does pretty decent damage. Sunday basically solves that issue for him and will push him more into the meta again. However, Sunday does seem more geared towards the future of Honkai Star Rail, possibly with more summon units, because we currently only have a few, Lingsha, Topaz, and Jingyuan, with Jingyuan obviously being the biggest winner from Sunday, because by the time Lingsha and Topaz released, the devs have figured out that it should be an action advance and not a speed boost for the summons, and don't really suffer from the same problem that Jingyuan has. Because the Lightning Lord now gets to act right after Jingyuan, with enough energy sources like Huo or Sunday's S1, you can funnel a ton of energy to Jingyuan for him to consistently use his ultimate to the point where it is extremely easy and comfortable for Jingyuan to get 10 Lightning Lord stacks consecutively in a short period of time. Like before with the same team but with Bronya instead, there would be some awkward moments after using Robin's ultimate that the lightning dot is already at 10 stacks, but Jing Yuan still gets 2 to 3 turns before it can even act. And also when starting a new wave, the lightning dot's action value is reset, which is a huge pain, but you can now easily solve this problem with Sunday's skill. These interactions boost Jing Yuan's damage per action value by quite a large amount, from a very set 4470 with 4 5-star units and even multiple 5-star light cones, which is actually pretty similar to Ling Xiao's damage with only Harmony MC, to going to a very respectable 12,000 plus damage per action value, which is slightly higher than an E1 Rappa for 3 targets in Memory of Chaos, although Jing Yuan still has quite an expensive team. This does put him quite a lot closer to some of the better damage leaders like Jing Liu, Dan Heng, and into the strong enough to zero cycle staff category, but I would like to remind you that this is in fact overperforming, and it really shouldn't be the bar set for character strength. But at the same time, if you're going to get 4 5-star units and multiple signature icons just to do that, I think it's kinda fair he is able to zero cycle. Unfortunately, 12,000 plus damage per action value still isn't really mind-boggling levels of meta, because quite a lot of other units are able to get around this value or this damage, and they require less resources to do so. I think Hoyoverse was very clearly trying to tone down Sunday so he doesn't completely power creep every other crit harmony support in existence, and give him a niche to fill at the same time, which will be summon teams, obviously. But at the same time, they've also done a pretty good job in making him very viable in teams outside of that. Like having 130 energy and the extra damage boost only activating if you have a summon or not. His Eidolons also tell the same story, like his E1 only gives extra 40% defense reduction to summons, which is a lot. That is almost a Pella ultimate, but if you don't, you only get 16%, which of course looks very sad compared to the 40%. Honestly, it's very hard to gauge Sunday's value properly, because if you only consider the current characters, he's definitely not insanely strong like Robin, unless you are a Jing Yuan main, which is why I think he's more so geared towards the future. I mean, the signs are kinda there. Hence, if you're interested in the new summons niche or meta that Hoyoverse seems to be trying to introduce to us, I would recommend getting him. Or if you are a Jing Yuan main, or rather especially if you are a Jing Yuan main. I think this is the first time I used the term, but if you are Jing Yuan main, I think there is no doubt that Sunday is a must pull for you. And so I believe Sunday more so evens the playing field for Jing Yuan right now in the present, and can make some other teams very slightly better, but I have a feeling most of his value will likely come from 3.0 plus units that have summons, but of course we don't quite know a lot about what's to come, so it's pretty much impossible to say, and only time will tell. Anyways, if you like more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel or even like the video. Thanks for watching.